Good morning to everyone. I welcome you to today's Satsang session with Sri Ashish. I'm Nisha Saluja and we're glad to have you all here. So, as we commence our session, we'll embark our of introspection for the next 15 minutes. And after the serene period, if there's any topic that's stirring within you and you'd like to explore more, we invite you to share the topic with the group for a discussion. And without further ado, let's begin our session. I now hand over to Sri Ashish to guide us further.
Good morning. Namaskar, everybody. So I think we'll start with our silence practice of silence. Um, Isha, beta, can you just keep the clock?
Yes.
I think the people on this call have done this before. So uh, let's begin.
We're through with 15 minutes, so we should now gradually step up.
Yeah, let's give everybody a minute. Okay. How's everybody feeling this morning? Ishibita, can you give access to their mics?
Yes, sir, already given.
Okay. Pete, Anil, Srinivas, how are you guys doing this morning?
Doing well.
Doing good, Guruji.
Good, good. Right. So today, should we try and tackle the topic of non-attachment? Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
Okay. So, what is non-attachment to you guys? When we talk about non-attachment, what does that mean to you? Anybody?
Giving up everything.
Okay. Giving up everything. Okay. And what is this everything? Pete?
Desires and uh, connectivity. We are kind of a universal rather than individual.
Okay. Okay. Anil, non-attachment to you is?
Continue to do things and not be worried about the outcomes associated with those activities, good or bad.
Okay. Srinivas?
Um, yeah, more like an observer rather than active. Um, the actions are not. The actions are observed rather treated as a that own kind of thing. I believe. Ownership.
So,
It's more of observing rather than taking ownership of actions or activity.
okay. So do you practice this in your daily lives?
No, Guruji.
So it's more of a intellectual understanding, but
That's
when you
correct.
are involved into the day-to-day, you forget about non-attachment, right?
That's
So
right.
non-attachment is actually very powerful. Non-attachment, whether to the outcome of your actions, non-attachment to as Srinivas, you put just being an observer, which is basically being non-attached to the perception or the idea of, um, you know, uh, creation or the falsity of creation. Beat your idea of non-attachment to being non-attached to your individuality, or to let go of everything, right? Non-attachment to everything. So
Mhm.
these are all um, if you really think about it, what you three of you have actually said in different ways. Anil has talked about from the perception of, uh, karma, karma or karma yoga. Um, Srinivas has talked about from the perception of, the ultimate finality where, you're just, non-judgmental observer. And Pete, you actually talked about non-attachment from the perception of surrender.
Mhm.
So, all three of you have kind of um, looked at non-attachment in different ways. But non-attachment, if you can practice in your daily lives in some shape, form, or kind, is extremely powerful. Non-attachment would actually be, um, the practice of self-inquiry is non-attachment. The practice of because once you've done the practice of who am I, which is self-inquiry, and you zeroed in on the understanding of this I, then non-attachment automatically triggers in, because once you've understood, um, with deep conviction that this I um, is nothing but, the universal, perceiver, then everything else is just something which is perceived by this perceiver, then non-attachment can automatically kicks in. And then non-attachment in the ultimate form is actually surrender, because once you've practiced or understood with deep conviction this I just to be the perceiver, then you just let go of everything. Eventually, this perceiver also dissolves. Uh, when you've completely zeroed in on the that this I itself has no substantial existence, um, then it actually dissolves into from where it had actually appeared to be. So non-attachment actually per se um, is um, extremely powerful. It's actually the crux of what you read or you heard or through the scriptures. So at different times, different masters have talked about non-attachment. So that's what non-attachment means. Now, how do you practice non-attachment, right? How do you very simple. It's we'll keep coming back to the same. Everything will lead you back to the same end of understanding, right? Which is um, who am I? Who are we? What is creation? Where it has come from? So it's very interesting. Anil actually was visiting me last week, and during our discussions, Anil actually had a very interesting discussion with my brother Manish. And in one of the questions, the as they were having their discussion, Anil actually came up with, Anil said, "Look, I want to show you a video," and he showed us a video by Swami Sarvapriyananda, which Anil, listens quite regularly to, and there was this example given by Sarvapriyananda about, the rope and the snake. I'm sure you guys have seen this example. This example is given a lot. This example is given a lot in the scriptures by the masters while they're trying to explain, false knowledge, right? So if you take the example of the rope and the snake, right? Um, what do you when there is a wrong perception? What do you take out from that example? Have you first of all have you um, um, heard of this example of the rope and the snake?
In the
Yeah, I
recent,
have. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Srinivas?
Yes,
Yes.
Guruji.
Okay.
Recent
It,
times.
Um, in the story form, I've heard of it. We get confused with the, for a rope as a snake because that is how our mind is set up to grasp certain things vaguely. That may not be true.
correct. Okay. Very good. So if the rope is what is reality, right? Rope is the rope is the rope. But the existence of the snake, is it real? Does the snake actually exist? What do you guys think?
No, it doesn't.
It does, right? So that
Why
means that,
doesn't I missed that, Guruji?
so there is the rope, right? Which is the original object, if you want to call it, or the subject, right? But it has been perceived as a snake. Now, does the snake actually exist?
Yeah.
No, right? The snake is only the rope is has been perceived as a snake,
Oh, okay. Okay. Pursued. Yeah. Okay. That's the
right?
word.
The
Yeah.
snake in
Yeah.
reality does not exist, correct?
Yeah. Correct. Right. It is
And
imagination.
the rope does not believe it itself to be the snake. The rope is the rope,
Yeah.
correct?
Mhm.
So something in the middle has created this perception that the rope looks like a snake, correct?
Yes. Yes. That's right.
Yes. So in this case, the snake has no locus standi. That means the snake will not disappear
Mhm.
because the snake itself was not there, correct?
Mhm.
What was there was a false perception or a false knowledge.
Yes. Yes.
What
That's
needs to disappear? The snake does not need to disappear because the snake was never there. The false knowledge or the false perception needs to disappear.
mhm.
And who is it that has created this false knowledge or false perception? Is where the crux of the matter lies. The rope is not saying I'm the snake. The rope knows it's the rope. The snake is not there. The snake has no locus standi. Snake
Yes.
was never there, right? So something in the middle has appeared that has created the perception or a false perception of the
Mhm.
rope to be the snake.
Mhm.
Now take this example and apply it to reality, or what we always talk about, consciousness or pure consciousness. So reality is the reality. Reality is being perceived as individual creation. And everything says that, or all the scriptures say that reality does not change, it's permanent. It will always remain as reality. So something in the middle has appeared which has created this perception of reality to be something else, which is creation or the phenomenal world. And this middle part seems to have appeared on its own. So if this middle part, which is the one that is created, it's not come out of your own volition. So if you can understand it's not come out of your volition, that it's just appeared and created a false perception, then the knowledge of the self, what does it do? It removes. What needs to be removed is not creation itself. What needs to be removed is this false knowledge that there is creation. Correct? Yes or no?
Yes. That means what is there in our mind that is inadequate to come to to understand the truth.
So what is in the mind? The only thing that is actually the very thing that is created all this chaos, the naughty one in this whole drama, is your mind,
Mm-hmm.
is the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And mind is nothing but a collection of thoughts. If you remember, we've had this discussion, right?
Yeah,
What is
correct.
the nature of the mind, right? Mind is nothing but, collection of thoughts. Actually, the nature of the mind is just thoughts. So this medium, which has seems to have appeared in the form of thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
is what is creating a false knowledge or a perception of another reality,
Mm-hmm.
which is a separate, which is your individuality, which is separate existence. But it's only a perception.
Yeah.
So that cannot go away, right? What will go away? That is just the perception. It's just being perceived, just the way the rope is being perceived as a snake. So if that needs to go away, and that is the only thing that has appeared, because reality, the rope knows it's the rope. Rope is saying nothing. It's just there. It is not questioning itself. It's not saying that I'm somebody else. There are no questions arising in it. It knows it's the rope, which is what we say. Reality knows it's permanent. It knows who it is. It doesn't need anything else to know who it is. Hence, once you've got this understanding, then non-attachment becomes very simple. Because what are you being attached to? What you attached yourself to is false knowledge. Non-attachment is removal of this false knowledge. Because once this false knowledge is gone, if you're not attached yourself to it, then everything else automatically will disappear because that thing is not there. It's anyways not there. It's just the knowledge that you believe it's there. So removal process also is not of anything external because that's the way the snake is not there. Neither is creation. So the belief that there's individuality, it's not there. It's just a false knowledge that it's there.
So, what creates this false knowledge?
Thoughts.
And who creates the thoughts then?
See where it comes from. They're just appearing and disappearing. Who creates your dream? Where do the dream come from? They just come and
Yeah, but
go.
they don't answer the question. I think that is a good question also. Where the dreams come from and where the thoughts come from.
Correct.
Because
They just seem to appear and disappear. Right?
yeah,
Even your current thoughts, when you think, where are they appearing from?
I think thoughts do come from the data, and the data to data connection, two data or three multiple data, when they're connected, become a thought, and that thought what we pursue may not be correct all the time.
But even the data, where is the origin of this data? Still from a thought,
Yeah, they're convertible.
right? It's just the origin is the I thought, the first thought, which is what we call mind.
Right.
Say I thought, some say the mind, some say I am, some say, the great causal. They're just different names. Some say God. Just different forms of saying, but what is the origin of the thought? They just seem to appear. The first thought that has appeared, which we call, recognition or consciousness,
Yeah.
right? Reality is again, the rope is not questioning anything.
Right. Uh,
The first thing that happens is you become conscious or you become aware
mm,
of something. And then that consciousness starts to think.
one question, as you said, data, mixture of lot of data makes a thought. In my, as I feel, data itself is not a uh, full full picture. It is a fragmented picture, and the combination of data become a thought. That thought itself is false. Or how do we make a thought from the data? That process.
So what
may-
came first, Pete? What comes first? The paper comes first or the writing comes first?
yeah. uh,
Can you write without paper?
no.
So
Hmm.
even the data that started, right, has to originate from somewhere. The first data that even came has to originate from somewhere.
Uh-huh.
What
Right.
happens is that the mind is just made the conditioning of the mind, which has happened over the years, has just made you believe in certain things. You've taken certain things for granted. The whole point of inquiry, introspection, contemplation, the whole point of going inward is to find the origin. This whole process of self realization and this whole thing of nirvana and all this is only to find the origin. And origin, which in this case, let's say in our example is the rope, is not questioning anything, is not saying anything. It knows
Right.
itself. So
Mhm.
the whole process of this that we've been discussing, or whatever you want to call it, of life or the journey, or is nothing but the removal of this false knowledge or this perception of something that is out there. Now, Anil has a valid point, right? Why has this all been, where is this coming from? Why is this being created? It's the same way the dream is. It's just mental entertainment, like local gossip. If you like it, you enjoy the gossip, but
Mm.
it's gossip. If you begin to believe in the gossip,
It looks like a test subject also, Guruji. We may be test subject like a lab rat for a higher consciousness. Because if we see, we cannot escape our world by ourselves.
so who is this ourself? See,
Ourself
remember,
means the
there is
one
only
that
one, right? There is no other. The whole ourself, which is where the difficulty of non-attachment starts happening, is
mm,
because we are all attached to the belief that we have, we are individually existing, that
I
we are
agree,
this body, right?
but the body gives pain and also mind gives pain that we are attached to. And sometimes only death is the solution rather anything else. like cancer and madness, if you take both
But is
only exit.
Yeah, but is death
Equally.
also real?
That is
Is
a separate thing.
Right? Is
Because
cancer real? Is suffering real?
yes, it's a. I don't know what to what level mind can we the detachment can happen. The disassociation from mind and body. People feel. I learned either with the cancer patients or people in madness. They both get disassociated from body and mind is what I learned. People who are in health and normal well-being, they don't look for disassociation or that is something that happens to them is what I read um, in psychology or
Yeah. So you're right. So when people are happy, right, they don't want to do anything. They're happy.
how does
Because
it matter whether it is a rope or snake if it is not affecting us,
correct. Very good. It doesn't.
right?
It doesn't. This is where
So
the
when
whole
there is
crux
a
of,
meaning
right?
for philosophy, why do we need to learn anything when it is not affecting?
Correct. Very good. Because the rope doesn't need to learn that it's the snake.
We also doesn't need to learn whether it is a rope or snake, though the appearance is a snake or rope when we are far away and it is not reaching us.
Correct.
No, but that is
No,
not the
the
truth. Right?
yeah.
Correct.
See, Srinivas, I would say that I think why we need to know is this: that as an individual, when we consider ourselves as body and mind, then we suffer, right? Then we have problems. We suffer mentally and physically. When you are disassociated with it, like for example the first example that you gave, that is the ultimate situation. If you believe that you, meaning I, are just an observer, then you will get away from that physical or mental pain because you are just an observer. It is not happening to you. So you see, so long you're associated with body and mind, suffering is happening to you. As soon as you realize that you are not that body mind, then you absolutely away from that suffering and you are in your original state, which, you know, experience tells you is the ultimate happiness, or a constant state of X, whatever that X is. That's why you need to kind of, learn all this.
Right. So
So
I
Srinivas, this is a quote I always quote. Self-realization is to realize that there is nothing to realize.
right. Guruji, what found recent video, there is a big think a group of scientists and popular professors teach on that big think videos. I'll forward that. In that, one of the Buddhist person told there are no enlightened persons that exist in this world, but are enlightened actions. A mind goes into a universal recognition for some time. It some of the actions it takes which sees as for the entirety, which benefit the entirety, and then again falls back into a self where we enjoy the tea, samosa. So what he is saying is there are enlightened actions in this world. Enlightened people exit this world, they won't be in here, is what he's saying. And that is making sense to me because once you recognize body and mind is not you, still we are coming back into this and running the show, are falling into the show. So our realization, I don't know if it is perfect then, because if we are enlightened, means that state, if we have reached, again, why we are falling into the illusion? Why we need to be here?
So, correct. See what he's saying again. Think, see, look. So you have to capture every word. Now, this is where it becomes very interesting. When people who have gained, you okay, let's not call them enlightened, let's call them masters, or when people have understood this, right? What they say, you have to then read into every word and meaning of what they're saying. So he's correct, because everybody's, whether you take it or not, everybody's enlightened. There is nothing called enlightenment. Your starting point is enlightened. Everybody's enlightened. Everything is enlightened. And this reality, as this is what he's saying, is that look, perception of something else happens on its own and eventually will disappear on its own. So, for example, you have the moon, correct? The moon reflects, let's say there is a water body and the moon is reflecting, or the moon is shining. So you see a reflection. Now, if you throw a pebble and the water starts little disturbed, what happens to the reflection?
It gets distorted.
No. So does the reflection get distorted, or is the water is disturbed? The original has not changed. The reflected will not change because the original has not changed.
But there is no original, right? All these are connected. There
No,
is
there
no
is
one
an no,
single
there is an
place.
original. No, there is an original. The discussion of the original is what is the form and nature of this original. There is
Mhm.
never any debate on the question of existence. The debate is what is the form and nature of this existence. Where the confusion is on the form and nature of the existence. There is no confusion on existence.
Mm.
And there's no form in nature. The existence has no form in nature.
Yeah, it's
There's
the
no,
formless form.
yes,
Existence is the
yeah.
formless form. There is nothing to it. It's nothing. It's
It
emptiness.
just, yeah. So I think, if we see somewhere we have to start. If we start, Srinivas, the way I think about this is that you got to start somewhere. Like even in math, you have axioms. Before you can prove a theorem, you have to start somewhere. So here you have to start from existence. And from existence, you think about is the consciousness, nothing, just the awareness. And after this awareness, absolutely nothing exists. It's just the awareness that exists. Everything else is false. And why this construct is useful? Because when we think ourselves as body and mind, we have all these sufferings, we have all the problems. And our goal is to remove, Buddha's goal was to remove the suffering. Our goal after 3,000 years, same, remove the suffering. Now, if you stay in that mode of only consciousness exists, if you think that, then you will have a physical pain when you have cancer, and you will have a anxiety and fear when you have a mental problem. But so long you have realized that this is not you, you are only the consciousness, the effect of that suffering will be minimized, if not completely eliminated.
Anil, can you repeat that starting point? You said something very interesting. From existence comes consciousness. Is that correct?
Existence is consciousness. There's
Ex-
nothing else.
Oh,
And that we
exist.
cannot deny because we are aware. You think you exist, right? I mean, you cannot deny that. There's a self, it's a self-explanatory definition. We are aware. That's the only thing and everything that exists.
So,
Anything beyond that is just an illusion. But we are associated with that illusion as if it is real. That's why we have the pain and suffering, anxiety and fear and ambitions and all those things, right? As
So
soon
Pete,
as you know, right,
so
then you
Pete,
get it.
as long as you believe that the rope was a snake, you fear it. Correct? All the emotions attached by the belief that the rope is a snake all kick in.
Yes, Guruji. But if there is a snake,
There is no snake.
I agreed. The rope appearing as a snake is one example that was given. Another example, there is a snake and we saw it as a snake. Then what?
Nothing.
That's a problem with the world, right? See, some of the experiences that we experience give the pleasure, and some of the experiences are pain. Suppose if I don't want to say you or someone else, if they had a brain surgery and get disabled, then the philosophy that appears to them is totally different than a able person how he reasons the world. Pete was talking about a cave fish that doesn't have eyes, and he's thinking that the senses that we have are complete. But I told him that just like a cave fish doesn't know that it has eyes and there is an outside world where humans take the flight to China, we may not be having senses that a higher dimensional being has. Yep, along the five senses we have, there may be a different sense that we don't have. Mm, uh, a higher dimensional being has can reason and see the things differently. I after watching all this, what I felt is it exists, neither exists nor um, doesn't exist like that. Some either are things I saw in Buddhist arguments and are also in Vedas. I personally felt that we don't know the higher dimension, so we reason on both the sides and mm, we
Correct.
talk
Correct. Because all of this reasoning, debate, is all conceptual.
conceptual. Yes,
It's all within, as I said, for reality, nothing going on. Everything that is then going on is all conceptual.
but then death is the real thing,
No,
Guruji.
how is it?
Yes,
When
because
life, when there is
because
no
false
creation,
information is flowing into the mind. False information are and we are acquiring the body by eating other matter, and from the matter, just like matter, we are receiving information from the world which is false. When we recognize that, we can exit this and get out of the illusion. Death is
yeah.
a
So in
Mahasamadhi. People who take samadhi,
yeah.
why they are taking is because they are really enlightened. They then realize the meaning of enlightenment, so they are exiting. Whereas we are actually bound, body bound, mind bound. We reason,
So are
we
they?
debate,
What are they exiting?
the illusion, body and mind.
Right. But if there was the illusion was that if there was never any creation, then what is dying? What is death?
The illusion. There
The
is
illusion, the death is of the illusion,
illusion is dying.
right? Yeah, the illusion's dying. So the
Illusion
death,
dies, body mind dies.
right? Now, the illusion dying means that the knowledge of creation or the false knowledge of creation has been removed. There is no physicality to it. It's just like anything that's happening in your dream is real within the dream as long as you believe that the dream is real.
Dream is real because chemical interactions are happening in our brain at maybe at a lower state, and dream world is appearing. Physical world also where chemical interactions are happening, and it's a uh, physical world is another dream at a higher level of chemical interactions. That I recognize. The
Right?
only
No,
way,
but what happens to the character within the dream? So you also, let's say when you eat in the dream, as long as you've identified with the dream, you believe that the eating in the dream is real. Just the way you're saying that the body eats, the body dies.
yes, that is
Correct.
that is an interesting thing. I want to answer that whatever is happening in the dream is real, because the chemical reactions in your brain are happening with whatever matter and information went in to create that dream and the person eating in the dream.
Okay,
So,
so when the person that is eating in the dream
right.
is eating, but when he's full, when you wake up, are you full?
Well, I want to answer that. That person is full in that world. We are waking up into a different world where we may be hungry still. So that world, how do you say that that world and this world are the same? Mm, And there we ate means here also we ate.
No, I'm not saying it's the same. I'm just saying that it was just a perception within your consciousness.
How can we say
Something
that? That is
appeared,
the reality. Both are realities. Both exist. From that world, we are entering this world, exiting this world, going to that world. Like that, we can feel, right?
right? So you're saying, but which is where the identification comes, right? Something is identifying to make that a reality. Something is identifying with that. Once that false knowledge or you awaken to that reality, you realize that it was false.
Just when I were in the dream state, that is a reality that is running. As you and me are conversing now, we are in a different world. How long time periods and what is happening? How can we say what is reality then? Dream
Nothing.
also reality for me. When
Yes,
I am in that state, till that runs, that is the reality. When I am here and conversing with you till I sleep, this is my reality. Where is reality? What is the meaning? Reality is another illusion, right?
correct,
So whatever is bound to us at that minute, we need to experience and pass through that phase. There is
correct,
no way to escape that experience.
correct.
Experience is the reality, and we cannot escape the experience.
Okay.
The
Uh,
only way to escape the experience is making the senses die. So you die. One has to be taught dying also, I feel personally. I'm expressing my mind
You're
to
not
you.
good, good.
Committing suicide also had been taught from the beginning. I think Gurujis and all those people taught this. But in the modern world, even with cancer and psychosis, we don't die because we value existence more than suffering.
Okay. So what you're saying is that while we are in all of these phases or these different worlds, we have to experience everything, right?
I'm not saying that we have to. We don't have a choice. We cannot
Okay. So we don't have a
escape.
choice. Agreed. Okay. We don't have a choice. Good. Good. So if we don't have a choice, that means that it's not in our control.
Death is in our control, right? We can die.
How's death in your control? Do
Um,
you have the exact?
I'll explain that, Guruji, in a simple way. We go to a restaurant, we pay $100 for a meal. When we receive the meal and taste it, it's not good, it is filthy. Then, do you see $100 value in the meal? or do you throw it away and walk out of the restaurant? It depends on the person. Some people go to a non-entertaining movie by paying money, but they think that by sitting in that theater and watching the movie, they get the value for the money rather than the suffering the movie is offering. The same way, many things we do in life, though we pay, we don't like it, but still we receive that bad experience because we think that we are getting the value for the money. The same way in existence also, because we already entered life and we started experiencing, even when this life is offering bad experiences, we are continuing that, like eating a bad meal. We can exit this, and maybe after the exiting life, another life may offer a better choice, or if it offers a bad experience again, we die enough number of times till a good meal
So,
will
so,
comes to us.
so, so now whatever you've said, apply non-attachment to it.
But body and mind are giving suffering, right? That's the nature of how this is. We
Yeah.
cannot
So
escape cancer and
you can't,
psychosis,
right? You can't.
right?
So what the only thing you can do is, if you can believe that you can't, then automatically you become non-attached to it. Why are you attached to it then? If you have a belief that this is going to happen, whatever it is, whatever the experience may be, whether good or bad, whether suffering or pleasure, why be attached to it?
Just because, just like when after paying $100 and receiving the bad meal and eating that meal, I am valuing life rather than dying, is what I'm saying, though it
Right.
is
So
offering the bad
correct. So you are
experience.
valuing the experience, whether it was good or bad. You're saying, look, I value the experience.
No, not valuing the experience, valuing the life, not the
Valuing the
experience.
life. The life is nothing but what people say is a combination of experiences. Correct. That's what life is.
No, my $100, the hard earned $100 I paid, though the meal is bad, I'm eating it. The same way, somehow I entered and gained this life and visual senses, hearing this, that, some sensory information I'm able to receive now. So I don't want to give away, though there is suffering to the body from cancer and psychosis in the mind.
So you don't want to give away that. You're
That's
saying,
how
look, I don't
practice.
want to give away that.
Mm.
And hence the suffering is there. So if you say, look, I don't want to give away this, and I'm okay with going through the suffering, through the pains, going through all the process of life, whatever comes, then which one it is? You can't have it both ways, Srinivas.
I agreed.
Are you trying to find a solution to alleviate the suffering?
Solution is
Or
death
you're
is
saying,
what I am saying.
yeah.
Committing suicide is the solution when bad experience is there.
So every time you have a bad experience
Yeah, commit suicide.
and then come to the next one. Now, what happens if the mind continuously does this in perpetuity?
Perpetually, see, that's why pray to God to be with you and give you the wisdom that you can die, so that you die continuously, endlessly till that happens. If not, let it happen till the good meal comes to you.
How will you? You're not in control. This is not your control. This is where the confusion is. You believe that you're in control and hence you can commit suicide. This is where the whole issue is. You believe that you're in control.
The suicide is in our control. That's the
No,
only
that
thing available
you
to us.
can't. It's not even in your control. When you will die, you will die. Whether you call it suicide or you call it death or automatic or whatever, doesn't happen. A lot of people try to commit suicide, but they get saved because something has appeared, something has come, something happens. This is where the confusion is, that you have begin to believe that you are in control. All of these methods teach you that you are not in control. Somebody else is in control. As long as you believe that you're in control, as long as that you believe that you are the doer, Hence, you're struggling with all the actions and events and feelings and whatever comes with the control, the fear of losing control. There is no control because there's nothing to control. When you dream, you may call it that the dream at that time, the perception of the dream is real in the dream. Okay. But are you in control of the dream? No. Whoever is the dreamer is dreaming. Something within you, you are asleep. Something within you has appeared that has started the dream. That dreamer is in control of the dream. But the character within the dream begins to believe that they are in control. So then they can take their life, they can enjoy their life. That's where the confusion is.
Just like when we wake up from a bad dream, how we, after gaining this body consciousness, we feel, oh, that's a dream, and it's
Correct.
the
Correct.
same way. Maybe this body and mind are giving us suffering. When we exit this, somewhere else we may feel that,
But
oh, that's a
but this
bad
is the thing.
experience.
There is nothing to exit, Srinivas. This is the false knowledge that you believe that you exist in mind and body, hence you have to exit it. As long as you keep believing in this, creation and destruction will keep going on, which is why it's called a perpetual cycle. So
Sure,
the
Guru.
idea
I
of taking your
understand I'm
life,
reasoning with mind.
yeah, will continue. This is where, so the only way this will happen is where the mind has to become quiescent. And the mind has appeared on its own. Universal mind or individual, whatever you want to call it, the mind thoughts have appeared on their own. And hence they will disappear on their own. When you get this point that nothing is in control, there's nothing to be controlled, it is just appearing and disappearing. This is what knowledge of self is, which removes the knowledge of objectivity or the false knowledge. As long as you believe that the snake is there, you will have everything happening in relation to that snake. So here the process is just removal of this false perception of the knowledge. Nothing else has to be removed. The snake does not have to die constantly to realize that it's the rope, because the snake cannot die. So the snake in the first place was not there.
So, in the example that I gave you, you paid $100 and received the bad meal. Oh, what is the conclusion in that?
Nothing. There is nothing. It's just an event, which is also created by a mental concept. This is nothing but purely mental entertainment. Now, people say, but why is it being created? For entertainment purpose only. There is no answer to it that why is it being created. It's like, why does a dream pop up? Same question. There is no answer to it. Why does a child who's sitting there and you give him toys creates his own game? There is no answer to it. He just creates because he's entertaining himself.
But suffering is not. Is that also an entertainment? I mean, there is no meaning to it.
There's no meaning to it. There's no meaning to anything. When you go and see a movie and people are being suffering in there, what happens? Is that real? Because you identified with your mind and body, you are now struggling with the suffering. Then you start questioning that why is the suffering happening to me? But in reality, there is no suffering going on. It's just the perception of suffering.
But physical body suffering, I am unable to understand when you say there is no reality to it. Because
So this is what happens. This intellectual conversation must happen through direct experience. Till you do not experience that the suffering itself. And this whole thing is not an intellectual knowing. This is what I keep telling people, is that you have to take this understanding and implement. Because if you will not directly experience it, then you will keep saying that, but Guruji, this how can you say suffering is not real? It's like if you do not experience hunger, then how can you actually know that hunger is real or not real, right? So this experience, which is where the difference comes between, and again, it was actually a wonderful video that Anil showed us. Anil, you should share with probably with Srinivas and Pete,
Yeah.
because Swami Sarvapriyananda actually explained it very well. I was quite happy that he was able to explain it very well.
See,
It means
Srinivas, I
This
think,
is
let,
rational.
let
Yeah, go ahead.
Srinivas, one thing, I think, and you can read about this. This is actually documented. Both Maharshi Ramana and Ram Krishna, right? Paramhans, they both died of cancer, right? And when they actually had it, they were suffering physically. And there is a discussion about them. People told them, why don't you go for surgery? Why don't you do this? Why don't you're suffering? He said, both of them said, yes, it is hurting. It is hurting badly. Ramakrishna Paramhans had the throat cancer, and Ramana has the cancer in the arm, I believe. They were suffering physically, but the discussion is also around where they said, yes, I'm suffering, but kind of I am at the same level of consciousness, meaning inside it is not bothering me. See, it is not affecting me, meaning that I, which is not the body and the mind. Internally, I'm consistent before the cancer, during the cancer, and after the cancer. And they died of cancer. So the body will die. That is no, there's no denying of the fact. But you have realized that this is not me, this is not my body. I'm hurting. There are nerves, right? They're actually creating pain sensation. But inside, it is not me who is suffering. It is not me who is having the pain. That is the realization, which we know, but we don't experience it at that level that Ramana and Ramakrishna Paramhans had. That's the difference.
which
And
is
one more example I gave last time also, I believe. Buddha said, right? There are two arrows. One arrow is coming at you. The other arrow is coming from you. The one that is coming at you is that suffering. How do you react to that suffering is the second arrow. The people who are enlightened or realized or have wisdom, their reaction to what they are seeing is very different than everyday person that we see in ourselves, in our communities. That's the realization. Everyone will get. Ramana, Ramakrishna, you, me, Ashish, everybody will get the first arrow. How do you react to that first arrow? Second arrow, that's where the differences are coming and the knowledge is coming from.
and
I
that
agree with that, Anil, and that we are learning in psychology, MBA courses, and leadership courses. How to handle emotion, emotional intelligence. They are all talking the same thing, right? How this is different to a course in emotional intelligence?
you tell me,
However you
Srinivas,
get it, however
however
you
you get
get
it,
it, doesn't
doesn't matter.
matter. Yeah, however you
Correct.
get it, you get through the spiritualism, you get through psychology, you get through practice, you get through, doesn't matter. But your second arrow is what kind of really decides what you do or
Yeah,
what your understanding is.
And
well
that's
said, Anil. But that is happening irrespective of whether we are following religion or spirituality or anything, because there are 800 crore people. We wake up, we search for something in our wake state. All the time we search. Every human being. And we search for food and information, if you see. There's nothing more than that. We nourish our body, we try to nourish our
So what is the
forest.
question? Then what is the question? If
then
you understood this, what is the question then?
then there is no question. Question is, individual suffering where you sit alone with body suffering from cancer, or if your brain is infected with cysts and all that, if it is giving psychosis, I don't know any of this emotional intelligence or how to participate in the world solves that problem, is what I am saying. Whatever we
So,
are discussing,
so,
does it solve a
yes.
psychosis or madness
Yeah,
or physical cancer, is the question.
yeah. I have some thought on that. Can I share?
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
You know, as we are involved with the deep thoughts, we understand I, what is I, includes life, intellect, and consciousness, all three component together. Now, the whole world or universe is in cyclical nature. As Anil mentioned in the few sessions back, cyclical. Everything is, you know, whole universe is cyclical. That means our life, to apply that theory, we are born and we die, and that is cyclical. Day and night happens in cyclical. When the day happens, obviously we are going to have night, and again night happens, day comes up. Earth is rotating in a cyclic way. Universe is also going. To my knowledge, even Big Bang theory, which is physics says 12 billion or 14 billion years ago, it is also in cyclic. Everything in cyclic. So in the cyclic, applied to the human being, birth to death, we go through the very nature of this thing. Suffering is part of that one, as this thing. To avoid that suffering, as Srinivas says, only thing is that we cannot avoid, we can minimize. So minimizing is with the systems, all functionary systems are there. If you work with the systems, suffering can be minimized. It cannot be avoided. That part and parcel of that one. Suffering is there, then happiness. These are opposite to each other. If there is a happiness, there has to be suffering. If there is suffering, there is happiness. So it is cyclic in nature. Minimizing that one is in our hand to certain extent by tweaking the systems. That systems is what we are innovating as a human being. And nature also innovates that one in the animals and spiders and other thing. Now, this, these worms, what is this called? Yes, which have come up after 17 years. What is that called? I just forgot that word. Every 17 years. They all are below the
Cicadas,
earth.
cicadas,
Cicadas.
yeah.
Cicada.
Mm.
See, that is also life. These cicadas are there, millions of them below the earth at 10, 20 feet and survive. And they come out all together at one time on the top, and they'd all die at the same time. I don't know whether yesterday I was looking at taking picture of that one to understand what it wants. Do they want to commit suicide in mass, or it is a natural process? Then I felt that it is a natural process. It is not they are intensely thinking of committing suicide. So suffering is, do we call it as a suffering for cicadas? No, it is they are following a cyclic process. Again, they lay the eggs and they go back. Again, they're born and they come back after 17 years. So suffering is a man-made, or we are exaggerating that one. But if at all, if it exists, then happiness also exists side by side. So we are only focusing as human beings on suffering, but we are ignoring the happiness. Actually, people go through happiness also. And everybody have built-in capabilities in happiness. Same amount of it is a plus and minus. If there are positive electrons, there are negatives. So they are somehow they equalize. But we are not discovered that one does not mean that does not exist. That is my view.
Okay. Okay.
Well said, Pete. I think, because I think we kind of, exaggerate suffering, and we are not appreciating the happiness, the gratefulness that we have for so many
Yes.
things that are happening in our lives. That's
Yes.
absolutely correct. Because a little bit pain, the whole focus goes into that. There are hundred of other things, good things that are happening. We are ignoring it. We are taking it for granted. We're not appreciative of those good things that are happening in our lives.
I want to make I know that I'm is taking time and taking the opposite to view, Anil. I had a 5 or 10 inch worm growing in my brain for from my 19th year to 35 or 40 years. I suffered to have so two lives are occupying the same body. Going with our body is not mine and mind is not mine thing. If we take in the body that I am occupying, there is another thing also living, and it is eating that, and it is its body, and it used to distort my reality because it affected my thought process because something else is eating my mind, right? Robert Kennedy Jr. also posted something on CNN, in case if you guys want to read. Similar thing was there in my mind. I suffered loneliness. I don't know how to get rid of it from the body that I am occupying. So, what I am saying is, I do not know your personal experiences with suffering, but there is a hell. And if you haven't experienced the hell, then you talk of happiness and joy, all these things. If you have experienced the hell, then you don't have a meaning for happiness. You want a meaning for stable, peaceful state.
So very good. Okay. So we'll close out at this point. But Srinivas, exactly. You have experienced something that nobody else has. Correct? I think on this call, the way you've experienced it. And which is why you can talk about it. You can say, look, this is something that is there. Same way, I've experienced something, right? Which is nothingness. Something that is beyond mind and body. Something that when you experience it, it basically alleviates everything that the mind has ever thought of. Because this is a state of being which is thought free. There's nothing going on there. So all of this conversation that we have, you're correct. It's only mental concept. It's only an intellectual conversation. So, which is why we come back to it that if you do not practice, if you do not implement, we can talk about non attachment, we can talk about reality, we can talk about self inquiry, surrender, suffering, happiness, alleviation, all of that for the next 100 years. And it will take us nowhere. We will still be at the same point where we are today. Is because if you will not take this and implement or realize, you will not experience. Until you do not experience, we will keep coming back constantly to this. So you have to start somewhere. The mind, which has created this nonsense of suffering, body, this thought, energy, body, all of this, it is the only one that eventually realizes from something, whether it is a physical event, whether it is a mental event, whether it is an emotional event. It realizes, comes to a realization, wait a minute, what is going on here? Is this my life? Is this what this is all about? Will I suffer all my life? Is this it? Is this the life that I have to live? If this is what it is, then it's pretty shitty. So it then starts to say, okay, wait a minute, what do I do? Maybe this is not the only thing. Maybe there's something else out there. So it starts to search for it. Again, remember what I'm saying. The mind that has appeared on its own to create this chaos is the only one that can remove itself and disappear because it has appeared on its own. So it
But
will
when we
disappear
are
at all.
discussing, Guruji, I feel that we are trying to solve a social suffering rather than
Yes.
physical suffering or psychosis.
So
So,
this
so I
solution,
mentioned,
which is the experience, this is why it's called the ultimate, the finality, because it removes everything else, whether it is mental, emotional, physical, everything is gone. Because the very thing that has created this has completely disappeared or has come to equilibrium or is not creating any more conditioning or it is now, you know, in balance.
hmm.
I think
which is why,
Guruji,
yeah.
you mentioned, you know, surrender or giving up. I think that makes a big meaning. I feel I'm using my previous thoughts on cyclic nature. Day and night, these are cyclic. If we associate night equal to suffering, day has to be happiness, right? Opposite of suffering. And this happens if you dissociate with thought of day and night itself. Probably suffering will go away, happiness also will go away. We are in a real world. But if we cannot do that one by any reason, by some reason, but accept day and night exist, cyclic nature exists, that is also an alternative solution. Or another solution is that surrender. Surrender is a bigger solution. Accepting that one, happiness, unhappiness, accept, exist, but we have to adjust to that one is the second minor solution, as half solution, whatever you can call. I'm getting that feeling now.
Okay, so hold that thought. Next satsang, we'll talk about surrender. Okay. I think everybody has to go. I think it's 11:42.
Yeah.
But so the next beat, hold that. A
Yeah.
great topic. We will
Yeah.
discuss surrender. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. Very good.
Okay.
Bless
Thank
you
you.
all.
Bye
All
bye.
right. Bye.